In spite of an absence of energy from his nearest noblemen and aristocrats, and being truly sick with the jungle fever, Louis IX of France chose to send off a seventh campaign in December 12 of 44 to recover Jerusalem, which had by and by fallen into Muslim hands. The ruler was anxious to free the sacred land, which had been vanquished by the Turks in August 1244, 15 years after the brilliance delighted in by Frederick and his sixth campaign. He was additionally quick to save Damascus, which had been held onto by the ruler of Egypt's huge armed forces. Louis IX accepted that the circumstance in Europe made it the ideal opportunity to send off another campaign, as there was a break in the battle between the heavenly Roman realm and the papacy. The realm of France found a sense of contentment because of the blessed Roman sovereign, and the nobles in the long run consented to help their ruler in his bid to send off the seventh campaign. The seventh campaign has likenesses with the sixth campaign in that both were imagined and completed heavily influenced by a ruler, as opposed to the congregation. This features the declining force of the papacy, who had at this point failed to keep a grip on the crusading development. As ecclesiastical power blurred, rulers were progressively ready to involve the campaigns as a device of public strategy. This change in concentrate, be that as it may, is remembered to have contributed in the part to the disappointment of so many of the campaigns, including the seventh. Following quite a while of convoluted arrangements, Louis IX at long last left Aigues-Mortes on the 25th of August, 1248, taking his family with him. They went close by 100 boats and a multitude of 35,000 men, all meaning to hold on to Egypt's vital towns and use them as prisoners to be presented in return for Syrian urban areas. By far, most of the men were French, with a couple of Scots and British blokes tossed in just in case. Following a chamber with his key men, the Lord had concluded it could never be feasible to catch Jerusalem while Egypt stayed unfriendly. Thus, following a colder time of year spent in Limassol, Cyprus, the Crusaders showed up near Damietta, Egypt, in June of 1249. The ruler showed up in Egypt with something like a fourth of the men he had set out with, because of reducing supplies which had been spent during their extensive stay in Cyprus, and a tempest which dispersed a considerable lot of the boats and troops. Both Damietta's port and town were very vigorously braced in a bid to avoid any assaults. Yet Louis IX and his men had the option to acquire passage to the town on the 6th of June, 1249. From that point, they headed on to Cairo, yet their endeavors were hampered thanks to the Nile, which was overflowed with abundant downpour water, making the stream and its trenches blocked for a long time. The military was setting out toward the fortress of Al-Mansura, which had been recognized as an objective needing catch. A few bombed endeavors to develop a boat span followed, with the Crusaders at long last succeeding in entering the fortress. So, all in all, a fight resulted on the 8th of February, 1250. During the battle, Louis IX's sibling, Robert of Artois, was killed, and Louis IX was at last announced the victor of the fight, the result of which had gone uncertain for quite some time. In spite of this triumph, the Crusaders were worn out from the battling, and many got in a plague, which reduced their numbers much further. Louis IX had to go with the choice that the military would withdraw back to Damietta. As the Crusaders were going to Damietta, the Egyptian militaries moved toward the debilitated men and caught the Lord and large numbers of his critical nobles on the 7th of April, 1250. Following a long time of dealings, the Lord and his nobles were liberated from jail in return for a significant payment, and Louis IX got back to join his better half at section of land. He pursued the choice to remain there with the excess crusaders and aristocrats, instead of return to France, which is what most of men were quick to do. Over the course of the following 4 years, the Lord had the option to turn a tactical loss on its head through talks and strategy. He made various favorable collusions and furthermore figured out how to brace the Christian urban communities of Syria. The ruler at last got back to his realm after learning of his mom's passing,